Hi dear students, in today's class we will see a new story, Jamaican Fragment, written by A.L. Hendricks. A.L. Hendricks is a Jamaican poet and writer. So you should know about Jamaica. Jamaica is a place in North America, and there the population is mixed. White and black people live together. And through this story, it describes about the Jamaican man who witnesses a white boy ordering to a black boy while playing the game called boss. And through this story, the narrator is just trying to find out whether the boys were showing any kind of racial discrimination or they were just playing the game of boss. What is racial discrimination? In the name of color, the people are divided. Black and white people. For example, in India, there were different caste system like Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra. And in the name of these different caste, people were divided. The same way in the Western country, in the name of color, the people were divided, black and white people. And through this story, the narrator is just trying to find out whether there is racial discrimination in the mind of people or they are just the children, they are just playing the game of boss. Now we will go through the story. You may take page number 66, chapter 9, Jamaican Fragment, written by A.L. Hendricks. Every day I walk a half mile from my home to the tramcar lines in the morning and from the lines to my home in the evening. So there is a daily routine for the narrator. What is that? Every day he used to walk from his house to tramcar lines. Tramcar lines means a vehicle, tramcar. It is a vehicle that run on rails. So he used to walk from his home to the tramcar lines or the railway lines, and from the lines to house, from the lines to house in the evening. So that is a daily routine of the narrator, and according to the narrator, the walk is very pleasant, very good. Why? Because the road on either side is flanked by red and green roofed bungalows, green lawns and the gardens. The author felt that the walk was something very pleasant. The reason is that both the sides of road, it was flanked. Flanked means both the sides had something. Two sides had something. What is that? Red and green bungalows, green lawns and gardens. And the reason why the narrator says the walk was pleasant is that on either side of the road he could find the red and green bungalows, green lawns and gardens. And the exercise is good for me, and now and then I learned something from a little incident. So he felt that walking, it was something good for his health, but one day he learned something from one particular incident. And from this story we will learn about the incident that took place in the life of narrator and what he learned from that particular incident. So now we will go through the incident that happened in the life of narrator. One morning, about halfway between my front gate and the tram track, I noticed two little boys playing in the garden of one of the more modest cottages. As usual, the narrator started his walking and he reached halfway between his house and the tramcar lines. Then he found that two boys were playing in front of one of the modest cottages. Modest cottage means average. It's not that much expensive, but it was something good. So the narrator noticed that two boys were playing in front of one of the modest cottage. The description about the boys are given in the coming lines. They both were very young. One was 4 years old perhaps, the other 5. The elder of the two was a sturdy youngster, very dark, with a mat of coarse hair on his head and coal black eyes. He was definitely a little Jamaican, a strong little Jamaican. So two boys were there. One is 5 years and the other one is 4 years of age. And the elder one, that means the 5-year-old boy, he was a sturdy youngster. Sturdy means strong built. The elder one or the 5-year-old boy, he was very strong built and very dark in color with a mat of coarse hair. Coarse hair means very rough hair and coal black eyes, and his eyes were very black. And from that he understood, the narrator understood that that boy is a black person, or the Jamaican, a little Jamaican. And what about the other boy? The other little fellow was youngster but also sturdy. He also was a youngster and he also was very sturdy, strong built, and he was white. The difference is that the other boy is a white boy with hazel eyes and light brown hair. He was having hazel eyes. Hazel eyes means greenish brown or the reddish brown in color. His eyes color was greenish brown or reddish brown and light brown hair. Both were dressed in shirts and half pants. They wore no shoes. So from this paragraph, I hope that you understood about both the boys. One is 5-year-old boy and he was the black little Jamaican. And what was his specialities? He was sturdy youngster and he was very dark, and he was having matte coarse hairs and black eyes. And the other boy, he was white boy and he was having hazel eyes, and he also was very sturdy and he was having the light brown hair. And the similarities that also we can notice that both were dressed in shirts and half pants and they wore no shoes. Then the next paragraph. They were not conscious of my standing there watching them. The boys, they were playing the game and they were not aware that the narrator was standing behind them, and they played on. They continued the game without noticing that the narrator was standing behind them. The game, if it could be called a game, was not elaborate. The game, the narrator was not aware whether it is a game or not, and he is just feeling that it is a kind of racial discrimination that we will see in the coming lines. Was not elaborate. The things that we are doing, it was not elaborate. It was not something very complicated. And what was the thing that was happening there? The little white boy strode imperiously up and down, and every now and then shouted imperiously at his elder playmate. The white boy, he was giving some kind of orders to the elder playmate or the black boy. So the white boy, the younger boy, he was shouting at the black boy. Strode imperiously. Strode means walking. Imperiously means in an arrogant manner or without any manners. So the white boy, he was giving such a commands to the black boy without showing any kind of manners. And what the black boy was doing, the little brown or the black boy shuffled along quietly behind him and did what he was told. The little brown shuffled. Shuffled means walking. The little brown boy means the Jamaican, the elder one. He was just walking behind the white boy and he just obeyed all the orders from the white boy. And what all were the orders given by the white boy? Pick up the stick. The dark boy picked it up. Jump into the flowers. The dark boy jumped. Get me some water. The dark boy ran inside. The white boy sat down on the lawn. Some of the commands given by the white boy, and all these commands were obeyed by the black boy. And narrator was watching all these things. He was standing behind them and he was watching all the things happening there. And he was totally amazed. I was amazed. He was totally surprised. Here before my eyes, a white boy, for they were little more than babies, was imposing his will upon a little black boy. What was the reason for the narrator's amazement? In front of his eyes, he found that a white boy, little more than a baby. So, a small child, he is just imposing or forcing his will, his commands upon a black boy. And the black boy was submitted, and black boy is accepting all the orders from the white boy. I was puzzled. Puzzled means he was totally confused as I went down the road. So then he moved. After watching this incident, he just moved on and his mind was totally puzzled or confused. And what all are the things that were going through the mind of the narrator once he left the place? Could it be that the little dark boy was a son of a servant in the home and therefore had to do the white boy's bidding? Bidding means the commands. First thought that came in the mind of the narrator was the black boy, maybe he is a servant of white boy, and that may be the reason he is obeying all the orders from white boy. Then he understood that no, they were obviously dressed alike. The little dark boy was of equal class with his playmate. Then he understood that the black boy is not the servant. Why? Because they were dressed in a same manner, alike, in an equal status. They were having equal status and they were dressed in a same manner. So the black boy is not the servant of white boy. The little dark boy was of equal class with his playmate. Both were in equal class or equal status. No, they were playmates. And then narrator felt that these boys, they were not playmates also. Why? The little dark boy was a neighbor's child. I was sure of that. Then he understood that they were not playmates, but the black boy is the neighbor's son only. Then how was it that he obeyed the white boy's orders so faithfully? So some thoughts came into the mind of this narrator that maybe the black boy is the servant of white boy. Then he felt that no, it is not, because they were having equal status. And then he thought that both were playmate. Then also he concluded that they were not playmate, but the black boy is just a neighbor's son. Then he is totally confused. Then what is the reason behind why this black boy obeyed all the commands given by white boy, and why the white boy gave such a kind of commands to the black boy? And in today's class we had seen that the narrator, he used to walk from his house to the tramcar lines every day, and he felt that the walk was very pleasant. And one day he learned something from little incident. As usual, he started his journey from his home to the tramcar lines, and once he reached halfway, he noticed that two boys were standing in front of a modest cottage. And we have noticed the differences between these boys. One is 5 years and he was a black Jamaican, and he was having the features of a black Jamaican. And the other one, the youngster, was a white boy and he was 4 years of age, and he was having the features of a white boy. And what he noticed there, he noticed that these two boys were playing, and the white boy was giving some kind of commands, and the black was just obeying all the orders given by the white. And after that, once he noticed such a kind of game, the narrator, he felt that what was going on there, and he was totally amazed. And the thought that came into his mind, first he thought that the black boy was the servant of white boy. Then he thought that they were playmates. But finally the narrator understood that the black boy is not the servant, because he was having equal status with the white boy, and he was not the playmate also, because the black boy was the neighbor's son. And now his mind is totally confused. The narrator's mind is totally confused. And what was the reason? The confusion behind is that what was the reason why the black boy obeyed all the orders from the white boy. And I hope that the things that we discussed today is clear to you. And in the next class we will discuss the reason why the dark boy obeyed all the orders from the white boy. Thank you. Have a nice day.